The average first-time homebuyer in America is now 40 years old. First time, 40. That is not a typo, and it is not a recession statistic. That is a generation that spent their entire 30s doing everything right, saving, working, waiting, and still could not get through the front door. And if you think that is just a rough patch for a lucky few, consider this. According to NAHB and Ion Housing, 65% of American households cannot afford a median-priced home in 2026. That's 88 million households, not struggling to afford a mansion, struggling to afford the median, the middle, the average. What that means for your paycheck, your zip code, and your next 5 years, that is what this video is actually about.
Here is what makes this story different from every other housing video you have seen. This is not about people who made bad financial decisions. This is not about overspending or undersaving. According to NAHB, more than half of American households earn less than $80,000 a year. Nearly 2/3 earn less than $106,000. And both of those numbers fall well short of what you need to qualify for a mortgage on a median-priced home right now. So when someone tells you the housing market is just weeding out people who are not financially ready, show them those numbers. According to the Atlanta Fed Housing Ownership Affordability Monitor, owning a median-priced home currently consumes 47.7% of a median household income. The standard affordability threshold is 30%. We have been sitting above that threshold for 2 straight years. Congratulations to every personal finance guru who told an entire generation to just cut expenses and save harder. The goalpost did not just move. It got picked up, loaded onto a truck, and dropped somewhere most paychecks will never reach. So let us actually look at the numbers, not the headlines, not the vibes, the numbers. Because right now, the floor is lower than most people have been told, and someone needs to say that out loud.
Let us start with the number that makes this real. According to Real Estate Today and the Mortgage Bankers Association, monthly payments for a medium-priced home now exceed $2,200 at the current 6.57% mortgage rate. That is up from $1,700 at the 2021 lows. In 3 years, your monthly payment on the same type of home jumped $500, not because you bought more house, just because time passed. Now layer in the down payment. According to Goldman Sachs data reported by Bloomberg, a young married couple today needs 70% of their combined annual household income just to cover the average down payment. Not the mortgage, not closing costs, just the down payment check you hand over before you even get the keys. And here's the city-level version of that math. In Los Angeles, according to Real Estate Today, the median home price sits at around $860,000. The household income required to qualify for a standard mortgage on that home is $160,000. The median household income in Los Angeles County is nowhere near that number. So who is actually buying homes in Los Angeles right now? That is a genuinely interesting question that the city's shrinking middle class would love answered. But if you think Los Angeles is just one coastal extreme, let me take you somewhere even harder to believe. San Francisco. According to world data and U.S. Census Bureau calculations, the income required to afford the median-priced home in San Francisco now stands at $321,463 annually. That is based on a 30-year fixed mortgage with 20% down as of Q4 2025. $321,000 a year to buy the median home, not a penthouse, the median. That number is so disconnected from average American wages that it barely feels like the same country. And in a very real economic sense, it is not. Now, let us go to Houston. Houston is supposed to be the good news story, the affordable alternative, the city people move to when they give up on California. And to be fair, it is more accessible. But according to Bexley Realty Group, Houston is currently offering up to $50,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance for income-qualified buyers, households at or below 80% of area median income who have not owned a home in 3 years. That is the affordable city, handing out $50,000 just to get buyers in the door. Not because the market is generous, because without that assistance, even the affordable market is not affordable enough. That is not a success story. That is a city on a subsidy trying to hold the middle class together with grant money. According to J.P. Morgan and the National Association of Realtors, the NAR Affordability Index is still 35% below its pre-COVID level. Rates have eased from their 8% peak, but the structural gap built over the last 5 years is not closing in 1 or 2 years. It is not even close. According to the National Association of Realtors, the average first-time home buyer age hit 40 in 2025, and the share of first-time buyers fell to a record low of 21%, down from 34% just 1 year earlier, and cut roughly in half since 2007. Let that trajectory sink in for a second. In less than 20 years, the first-time buyer share has been cut in half. If that line continues, and nothing structural has changed to stop it, where does it land by 2031? According to an IPX 1031 national survey from February 2026, more than 3 in 5 Americans say buying a home in 2026 is unrealistic. That number jumped from 49% just 1 year ago. And according to the same survey, 82% of Gen Z and 62% of millennials say they cannot afford to buy in 2026. 2 generations, not 1, 2. And these are not people who opted out. According to the National Association of Realtors, first-time buyers today are putting down 10% as a down payment, more than any previous generation and the highest in nearly 40 years. They are saving more, they are putting down more, and they are still getting priced out. 2 generations did not fail the housing market. The housing market failed 2 generations. According to Realtor.com analysis reported by Fortune, restoring broad national housing affordability would require one of 3 things: mortgage rates dropping to the mid-2% range, household incomes jumping more than 50%, or home prices falling by roughly 1/3. Let us be honest about each one. Rates dropping to the mid-2% range would require economic conditions most Americans would not want to live through to get there. Incomes jumping 50% has not happened in any sustained way in 4 decades of American wage history. And prices falling 1/3 would destroy the equity of every existing homeowner in the country, the very people who vote in the highest numbers. According to Zillow and TCW Research, the U.S. housing market currently has a national shortage of 4.7 million units, an all-time high deficit. That shortage keeps a permanent floor under prices, regardless of what rates do. So nationally, yes, the picture is bleak, and the math is honest about it. But here is where the national picture starts lying to you by being too broad, because the affordability crisis is not evenly distributed across the country, and that geographic unevenness is where the actual strategy lives.
Coastal metros like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York are structurally unaffordable for the foreseeable future. The gap between incomes and prices in those markets is not a cycle. It is a permanent condition held in place by land constraints, zoning laws, and wealth concentration that does not reverse without a collapse. But move inland and the picture changes in ways most national headlines never bother to mention. According to Zillow's 2025 Market Heat Index and Regional Affordability Tracking, markets like Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, Huntsville, Alabama, and San Antonio, Texas have meaningfully closed the affordability gap over the last 18 months. The National Association of Realtors flagged all four as among the top 10 most affordable mid-size metros for first-time buyers entering 2026. In Columbus, for example, the median home price sits near $275,000, roughly one-third of the Los Angeles median, while median household incomes in the metro have tracked closer to $72,000. That income-to-price ratio still requires discipline and assistance programs in many cases, but it is a ratio that produces a monthly payment a two-income household can actually stress test against a real budget. These are not perfect markets. They are not immune to the national shortage, but they are markets where the arithmetic does not require a miracle to solve. The national picture is a dead end. The city-by-city picture is where the real decisions get made.
Here is what most housing coverage skips because it does not fit cleanly into either the panic narrative or the soft sell recovery story. Redfin is calling 2026 the beginning of what they describe as the Great Housing Reset, the first sustained period where income growth may begin to outpace home price growth since the Great Recession era. That is not a guarantee. It is a directional signal based on current wage and price trajectory data, but it is real and it is measurable. The lock-in effect that froze inventory for 3 years, millions of homeowners refusing to sell because they locked in 3% rates, is beginning to fade. More supply is entering the market. Buyer competition at the national level is lower than it has been since 2019 in several of those secondary markets we just named. Down payment assistance programs are more robust than they have been in over a decade. Houston's $50,000 program is not unique. Dozens of states have active first-generation buyer programs, income-qualified grants, and closing cost assistance that most eligible buyers have never looked up. None of this means the crisis is over. The NAR Affordability Index is still 35% below pre-COVID levels. The 4.7 million unit shortage does not disappear in one budget cycle. But for a specific household profile, dual income, geographically flexible, actively researching assistance programs in secondary markets, the data suggests 2026 is a more rational entry point than 2024 or 2025 were. That is not optimism. That's just what the numbers look like when you stop staring at San Francisco and start looking at Columbus.
3 things to take away from everything we just covered. The middle class did not fail the housing market. The data is unambiguous on that. The math failed the middle class, and it has been doing so consistently for 3 years. The national affordability picture, taken as one number, tells you very little about what is actually possible for your specific household. The answer to whether buying makes sense in 2026 is almost entirely geographic. And the window that exists right now is real, but it is narrow, it is market-specific, and it is not going to wait for everyone to feel comfortable enough to act. Here is what I want to know from you. If housing affordability does not meaningfully recover in the next 5 years, do you stay where you are, move to a cheaper state, or accept that renting is just the new permanent reality for your household? Drop it in the comments, because I think the answers are going to look very different
depending on which side of that coastal versus inland map you are sitting on right now. If this video gave you something real to think about, the subscribe button is right there. It is the most affordable thing we cover on this channel. The American dream is not dead, it just got rezoned.